What is going on, everybody? I know. Not a lot of activity going on behind me before or after the game as Carolina falls to the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 27-13. This is our post-game show here for the Charlotte Vibe. I just said for the. You're going to kill me for that later.
I will not.
But nevertheless.
I'm just happy you're still here after you come back for your second season, and it seems like 1-6.
Dedication, right? It's all about dedication. But here we go. I'm Andre Casseday. That's the aforementioned man of the people, Chris Jenkins.
Somebody just got the text about cutting the music. Now you feel like you're yelling.
It's about
right?
time. It's about time. And they actually listened to the man of the people after the 5 minutes of complaining about it, right?
Yeah.
But we're here on the field. We're going to try to get through this, folks. This is our venting hour, if you will, to try to figure out what the heck took place on the field behind us today. But Chris, again, this team served us another harsh dose of reality tonight.
It wasn't pretty, it wasn't fun, but we're going to walk through it with you. There's a link in the description for you all to come on the show. Hey, comments, questions, vents, whatever you want to have, we're here for you. But we're also going to recap the show, go over some statistics, some stats from tonight. And Andre, pay careful attention to Coach Frank Reich. I heard he spoke for a very long time. I'm assuming trying to convince you that everything is going to be all right.
You didn't do a good job of it. I'll just tell you that right now.
And we already got some comments coming in, so let's see if we have any members. All right, so we're going to give a shout out to the Mad Chat. Let's see if our earpieces are working. Do you hear
they
that?
Sure are. Nice and crystal clear. Better than those other ones that I was wearing earlier this afternoon. But hey, new equipment. We got to roll with it.
Something's working today. So the Mad Chat is maybe just a real bad one by a rookie. I still believe in Bryce. And I'm just going to comment on that piece in itself because there's a big puzzle. This isn't like a one-piece puzzle, right? This is at least about I like putting puzzles together when I was younger, by the way. I don't think I ever told you that, right?
Okay.
So
that's why you're so patient. I've known you to be a patient individual. I never knew why because of how crazy and chaotic your life is.
Yeah?
That may be it.
It's
the jigsaw puzzles, man.
You got me good on that one, I'm opening up and you just opened it up even more, right?
There's the source of his patience. It's the creations of the puzzles, if you will.
I am a patient guy. I am, but
I mean, he's got to deal with me every week, so I mean, there's part of it right there.
But Mad Chatter, yeah, I think there's lots of patience still be had with the rookie Bryce Young. I feel like there's less patience to be had with the coaching staff and the decisions that they make because they're not rookies, right? Bryce just came from college. This is his first run at it, and here in the pros, Frank, Jim, Thomas, everybody else, they've been a pro for more than a year. So I'd expect more, but we're going to get to those comments and more. Let's go ahead. You want to start with that press conference? I forget if we start with the press conference or if we do
Well, we're going to start with the press conference because Frank did have a lot to say right off of, really right from the get-go. It even has me unwavered with all the injuries that we had today. He had at least 6 players right off the bat that had either some form of injury or had an update on the injury that took place. I mean, you had Brian Burns, Chandler Wooten, C.J. Henderson, and a bunch of other players on that list as well. The injury bug has hit hard for this team, and today was just another example of it right there. But just to start off right off the bat, the injuries continue to be an issue for the Panthers. So that was probably the first thing that he wanted to get out of the way.
You don't remember what the injuries were for each player, do you, by any chance?
Not off the top of my head.
That's fine. We're live.
Just because there's so many injuries that took place today.
But let me comment on those injuries. Yes. I remember Bryce Burns. You heard of that guy? Brian Burns looked like, I don't know, it didn't look like a concussion.
It did not.
And I don't want to be like, oh, I'm the big medical guy, but it just seemed like it was something else. He gave the thumbs up as he was coming to the sidelines, went into the medical tent, had a very quick determination that it was a concussion. So, with that being the case, why do I keep wanting to say Bryce? Does Brian Burns play Thursday night versus the Chicago Bears?
I think it's a very low probability just because if he does have a concussion, that sets you back at least a week at a minimum.
Yeah.
So, for him to make the trip to Chicago, it would probably be coaching malpractice if he were to play on Thursday, just because of, for one, concussions. Those are very serious injuries to deal with. So I don't see him making the trip to Chicago. I know you're going to Chicago.
I am going to
that's
Chicago.
about as sure of a thing as you're going to get with this team. Somebody's going to travel with the team, right?
Our photographer, Patrick Snyder, will be there
as well, who is off in a distance being a creeper taking pictures of us. But that's neither here nor there, right?
They will love the pictures that he takes of us, though. They'll catch us doing something good. We won't look like we're talking about a 1-16 when you look at those photos.
I mean, hey, he's making us look extra crispy, especially after tonight's performance. But to get back on topic
let's move along. We got comments to get
we got
to.
a time frame, right?
Yes.
But other pieces of his presser, he talked about the turnovers, he talked about the penalties, and again, it's just one of those things where he is just extremely frustrated by it because it's something that they talk about every week, and it's something that they address every week. You know, something to the effect of not hurting yourself and not shooting yourself in the foot. And that's something that they did pretty much throughout the entire game today. And I think you could hear it in his level of tone of voice. He's frustrated by it. And again, these are things that are completely preventable, things that you can control as a team. Last week, they didn't turn the ball over once, and they won their first game. And today, there were numerous opportunities for the team that got taken away because they just could not take care of the ball. They couldn't stay out of their own way.
Yeah.
I don't know what the penalty.
We're beating ourselves today.
I don't know what the penalty count was today.
I got it for you. I'm ready to rattle it off.
You want to go for it?
10 penalties, 81 yards.
That's an entire football field, ladies and gentlemen, that they dug themselves into with the yardage. I mean,
I got one other one for you. The Colts.
Shoot for it, man.
5 for 25.
I mean, look at that disparity. And that just tells the whole story right there. And you know what else told the story? Our photographer, Patrick Snyder, did a good job of capturing it. Panthers could not protect Bryce Young to save their life, right?
Yeah.
And that was a question that got brought up numerous times over the course of that 15-minute presser. And yes, he did speak for 15 minutes. But with the fact that they couldn't get out of their own way, they couldn't stay in the opponent's way from Bryce Young. And, you know, that was one of the things that he addressed right off the bat as well, was just a poor start. And that contributed to that poor start and the team's inability to get out of their own hole that they dug in the first quarter. And we'll talk about it in the stats here in a little bit. But there were clear disparities in total yards, time of possession, the sack numbers, you name it. It was just a one-sided affair from that aspect of things. So, you know, again, he used the classic line of, hey, we got to look back at the tape to see what happened. You know, we're not going to, you know, place blame on anybody. We're going to take accountability for what did or did not happen. But, you know, it was pretty disappointing. And the tone, again, I keep using the word tone, was deafening. It was just, you know, a balloon with no more air in it. That's how it felt. And that's how it felt in this stadium tonight, too, especially in the second half. And for that team to put out that kind of performance against his former team, that's a bad look, not only on him, but everybody else that's in this building here tonight.
Yeah. Maybe a fun stat. You know, the Panthers outscored the Colts in the second half.
Really?
For what it's worth, right? To try to get something positive.
Right?
We had 10, they had 7.
And let me give you this stat, too. I don't know if you have this up in your little book that you have here. But the Panthers, in the third quarter, actually scored a touchdown. Can you believe that?
We scored 7 points.
And that is the first time that the Panthers have scored a touchdown in the third quarter this entire season.
We get one a game,
this
like one every other game.
Season. So that kind of just paints the picture for the lack of success that they've had in the third quarter, and that dates back to the previous regime with Coach Matt Rule,
right?
Who apparently on Twitter, people on Twitter, they're making the case that they want him back.
No,
there's no way
some
that's
drunk
happening.
Tweeting going on out there. There has to be some drunk tweeting going on to want.
There's no
Matt
way
Rule back.
that legitimately.
He didn't even have one good season. I mean, he had a good game or so in there, perhaps.
This is how down bad we are right now, Chris. We're having legit conversations about bringing Matt Rule back because of how poorly this start has been for Coach Reich and this Panthers coaching staff.
Well, I want you guys, again, the link's in the description for you to join this show, interact with us, let us know your comments, ask us any questions that you have. Tell me whether or not you think the people that he says is out there talking about Matt Rule is really silly or not, but,
We'll let that speak for itself.
We will.
I mean, it's just mind-blowing that people are out there thinking that right now.
Is that all from Coach?
That is pretty much it. I'd like to keep it short and brief because I think what we're going to do here is tell the full story and give you the full story behind some of these numbers that Chris has ready for us here tonight.
Did you hear that chirp in your ear?
I heard a jingle.
You heard a jingle?
A jingle to a jangle.
Hey, so again, there's a way to get in this show immediately. One is to do a super chat.
Yes.
Right? We welcome your super chats. The other is using that link in the description, whether you want to do it on your phone, your computer, whatever. Come on the show. Let us know what you have to say. And today, we're going to join somebody right now. Let's see if we can add them to the screen here. There we go.
What's going on, fam?
Testing. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you pretty good. Can you
Loud
hear
and
us?
clear.
Good timing. I just got the baby put down. So my question, I want to know if y'all noticed this as well. It seemed like a lot of the players that we didn't really use last week, like Hurst and Sanders, made a much larger appearance today, but then generally still weren't that effective. Hurst did have the long reception, and Sanders has probably had his best game with us yet. But it seemed like we didn't have any kind of rhythm established that we had kind of started last week or the week prior. It just seemed like we kind of took a step back offensively, if not 2 steps.
Yeah, that baby's – I hope wife's home, man, because that baby's waking up or something. You got that under control?
That's the cat. We'll say hi to Tom.
Oh, the cat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Good deal. Did you have another one, or was that the one that you wanted to get out to us?
No, that was the main question. I'd like to hear you guys' opinion.
Yeah, since we got a little time, we'll keep you on as we start to answer. You want to go first? You want me to go?
Go for it, man.
I was going to say I'll go. He hesitated. So with that, Sanders and Hurst, I believe that the biggest impact that they made was an impact that everybody made, which is that third quarter drive that was pretty long. I think that was about a 77-yard drive that we had where Sanders really ate up, he got a lot of yards. And I believe that was the same drive that Hurst was able to get a catch in as well, if I'm correct. Right. So to me, that one feels like, yes, those were 2 guys that have been underperforming. They were able to get in a groove, and whether that was just luck by the offensive coordinator, but it was short-lived because after that, things kind of went back to what it had been the entire game. But they did, Hurst and Sanders did wake up in that third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think especially with Hayden Hurst too, and that was the drive right there where, they finally had a big play. Up until that point, Bryce Young's longest pass was 11 yards until that 48-yard completion to Hayden Hurst, and then 2 plays later, he throws a pick 6. So I think, when you look at the 2.
A little close to me because we're trying to squeeze. Keep talking.
Oh, okay.
Keep talking.
All right.
We're just trying to squeeze into the screen.
Ultimately, they try to get them involved, and I think to the degree, I think, they had some success. I think Miles Sanders in the first half kind of saw, all the people on Twitter knocking his performance, especially after that one drop, and I think he was able to at least make some dent into some of those critiques of his performance. But, yeah, everything just seemed out of whack today, just in terms of, not being able to get into that rhythm. And part of the reason why they couldn't get into that rhythm was because of their O-line. They could not protect Bryce Young to start out, and ultimately that hole that they dug themselves into, they could not get out of it, and that kind of dictated the way the rest of the game was going to go for them.
Yeah, I agree. The line was quite bad overall. Yeah, because you can see Bryce even on a few of the, like when he got hit, you'd see him go to throw it and immediately tuck as he threw. I don't know how much that impacted those pick 6s, but you could tell by the third quarter he was trying to protect himself as much as he was trying to throw it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fight for your life for Bryce. But, hey, we appreciate you calling in. Hopefully you'll call in again. We'll go live again tomorrow for a show dedicated to answering questions. So thanks for joining us tonight, boss.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good having you on, man.
All right, so we'll continue to go through some stats. Andre's probably wondering, what is Chris talking about? So when we're on live TV, I got to give him cues because he can't see the monitors. And sometimes I can tell someone, what are you talking about, Chris? So, Andre, when we go to a caller, the screen narrows, so we got to stand right in front while we talk, and then we go back to our spots.
Hey,
right?
it'll be muscle memory at some point. Don't worry. In due time, everybody, we'll pick up on it, right?
Hey, keep on calling in, please. It's a lot, what we're here for. It's a lot of fun, and hope that you enjoy being able. We're the only people, period, outside of AM radio. I guess now it's gotten to FM radio, where you can call in and talk to credentialed members of the media on the field after the game with your questions. That has to be worth something.
Hey,
we hope
you
that
can't
you enjoy
beat
it.
that. You cannot beat that at all.
Let's go ahead and go to what we will call, photos of the game.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go ahead and show it. Our great photographer, Patrick Snyder, captured these photographs for us. And also want to say that if you do enjoy these photographs, the best place all week long, Instagram. Check us out. All of our handles are Charlotte Vibe. So here we go, first photo.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, do I need to say anything about that? This was kind of just the scene from this entire game today, especially in the first quarter. I believe that was on the first drive that Carolina had. And this is pressure everywhere, up the middle, left side. You could tell on the right side there you have Taylor Moton and Austin Corbett. DeForest Buckner had a couple of opportunities to get after Bryce Young today. But yeah, I mean, that just is where things started off, and it just continued throughout the game. Again, Bryce Young under duress. Need I say more? I mean, it just speaks for itself there. Pressure there from Brian Burns on Gardner Minshew. This was.
Can we talk about Gardner Minshew's sheer athletic ability to get this pass? I'm just joking, man.
This is Patrick Mahomes-esque right here with the way that he was able to throw that ball in that angle that he was in there.
If I can, I'm just going to give a shout out to Patrick Snyder on his great photography skills to get this guy with one knee down, Brian's foot in the dirt. And you can see the expression on Minshew and his beard as his mustache as he's trying to throw the rock down the field. Good stuff. We'll keep moving. Did I go through them all? I feel like I missed one.
There should be another one.
I missed one. I'm sorry. This is operator error going on right now, folks. There you go.
Boom. That is the play that gave Carolina some momentum, right? This is the muffed fumble punt from Isaiah McKenzie that Chandler Wooten was able to recover. And this was the break that Carolina needed in the second quarter, right? It was 0-0 at that point in the game. Carolina needed that swing of momentum. They got it. And what did they get out of it? Nothing. Again, missed opportunities. As one aforementioned Ron Rivera would say, you had to take advantage and get some points there, and unfortunately they just could not get it done. And that was kind of just how things went throughout this entire game today.
Hey, got some comments coming. We appreciate it. We like it. We got some likes coming. We got just a few things that we're going to go over here with the stats, and then we're going to go and address as many comments as we can before we get out of here. And what's the one way to skip the line and waiting for us to get through the stats?
Well, Super Chats. If you are a member, we will always say what's up. And don't forget, if you want to make a call, that link is in the description and in the comments section as well, pinned in there. You guys know what to do. We're here for you, and we want to hear from you as well.
All right, let's go through these stats. My man Bryce Young, wow, I just now seen this. He threw the ball 39 times tonight. And in my opinion, that's his completion percentage. I don't know. You want to do the quick math on that? He was 24 of 39. To me, that's not bad.
That's
with his completion percentage.
Right at 65.
Right at 65.
That's my guess.
4.4-yard average, 1 TD. But here's the killer.
62.
By far, the killer for Bryce Young today was his interceptions. He threw 3 of those. He had 4 sacks, and his passer rating was 50. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk about this. Bryce Young had a bad game. A lot of people will say that he's no good. We should have C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud tonight set a record in the NFL. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 400-something, near 500 yards.
476 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Say that again for the people in the back.
476 yards and 5 touchdowns.
So there would be, man, we should have got C.J. Stroud. But then you also have people that say, man, we should have not traded for Bryce and we'd have all these picks to get another pick. But, I mean, that's a little bit of shoulda, coulda. My opinion, strong opinion on the Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, is that number one is you have two different systems that these guys are in, and then number two, I think C.J. Stroud is going to be one of those rare cases where the rookie just has a great year. It's not to say that Bryce Young in his second year can't play more equally to C.J. Stroud. I feel like C.J. Stroud has a little bit better situation with his receivers than Bryce Young has. It's giving him those opportunities. And, you know, it kind of is what it is. But I'm right now fully patient, still with the rookie. Like, if you look at the technical part, like break down the tape, as they say, Bryce is doing a lot of things right. But he's just having a lot more that he has to get through in order to deliver the ball. What are your thoughts on Bryce and his performance? And the people that say, hey, we didn't make the right decision.
Well, his performance today did not help that narrative.
Nope.
This was his worst performance yet in the NFL. And those 2 pick sixes that he threw were the difference in this game today. Let's just be frank about it. And I say that phrase a lot, but it fits in this scenario here. If he didn't have those 2 pick sixes to Kenny Moore, this game would be a lot closer. That was the difference in this game. And so he's going to have to take accountability for it. But ultimately, Bryce Young is not a quarterback who is good enough, or may I say great enough, to overcome dysfunction or to overcome deficiencies on a team. That's not any discredit to him, because he's a rookie quarterback and he's somebody that's still trying to figure things out in this league. But despite that, he has made marginal improvements in every game that he has played up until today's game. He had a setback, and that's going to happen. He's a rookie, he's going to make mistakes, but he's going to figure it out. And I will bank on the fact that he will figure it out sooner, hopefully sooner rather than later. But, you know, we'll just have to see. Time will tell in that regard.
All right, let's go ahead and look at these rushing stats. And again, keep those comments coming. We're going to be getting to those very, very shortly. This chart here looks a little skewed, all right? So let me take this off for a second. No, I'm going to leave it up. I'm going to leave this up, and then I'm going to tell you, I'm saying this is skewed because it was a significant difference between the first half and the second half. And to be honest with you, a lot of this came during that great drive in the third quarter. I'm just trying to get to my notes here, or I shouldn't say to my notes, but to this nice little ticker information that I have here.
But let me just say this, too, before you had that all pulled up. Chuba Hubbard, again, the leading carry getter, go-getter, if you will, for the Panthers in the run game. So he had 16 carries, and you look at Miles Sanders, who only had 6. Again, they're rolling with the hot hand with Chuba Hubbard. And this is a conversation that we'll have, I guess, right now in regards to Miles Sanders. The contract that he got, 4 years, $25 million, somewhere to that effect. And what's to show for it? What's to show for it? He had 6 carries in this game. I mean, he had a pretty good average. The numbers were respectable for him today. But there were moments in the first half where he was in the game, and again, he just did not make any sort of effect in this game at all. And that drop at the end of the first half was kind of a microcosm for how people saw his performance and how he has played this season.
Yeah. So with that, the rushing, we had 50 yards rushing in the third quarter. All right, so when I go back to this chart here, where I'm going to put up the total rushing yards, and you know the 50 of them were in the third quarter, probably on that one drive, that's almost a third of your rushing came from that right there. So, but Chuba had 16 carries for 58 yards, a 3.6 average. Bryce, 41 yards rushing, 8.2 yard average. Miles Sanders, 6 for 39. Miles with the blazing 6.5 yard average on his rushing, and then Blackshear in there. So I'm going to say my 2 cents on this. Man, I feel like there's a little breeze out here. You feel the breeze? You feel the breeze? My toes are cold.
I feel the breeze, and I see the ice that's on the field, too. So
Bryce Young ran the ball today.
Bryce Ice?
Bryce Ice ran the ball several times today. And I know early on in the season I heard this, hey, maybe they should let Bryce run the ball a little bit more. And, you know, I'm starting to think that should be something that is not said, hey, Bryce, go out there and run the ball till you just can't run the ball no more. But I feel like they should say, hey, Bryce, just don't hesitate to run the ball. Just don't hesitate to run the ball. And I think that'll help him out some, because when he's running the ball, that will start to give you a chance to think about, like, okay, we got to play this part of his game, right? And furthermore, with that, Bryce just needs to get a little bit smarter with it, because I know he ran early on in the game and it was like he went to kind of lower the shoulder or just run through a guy like he's a running back. I don't want him doing that. You know, let's take that out of it. But I'm really on the bandwagon of Bryce. Again, I'm not saying run first then pass, but look at your receiving options. Look how much pressure you're getting. At least for the sake of, forget, you know, the balanced attack of the run game, at least for the sake of trying to just alleviate a little bit of the pressure that you get from the rush. Run the ball so that Icky or the guys on the edges just have their blockers, have your blockers, just have them think a little bit more. So I like that he rushed today. I don't know if you have any opinion on that or not.
Well, I think he kind of did that because he was kind of just in it. I just don't care anymore kind of move.
I liked it. How much did you like it? How much did you like it is what I want to know.
It provided a different option for this Panthers offense. Whether good or bad, it gave different viewpoints for how the defense should defend their offensive attack. But ultimately speaking, he kind of had no choice but to run it because of the amount of pressure that he was facing in today's game. I do want to see more of it, like Chris said. But there's a balance that you have to strike, and there's also some risk associated with it. With him being out there in the open field more, there's more chance
Just slide.
For him to slide.
If he slides, that takes away the risk. You see how much they protect the quarterbacks.
Right.
I know Bryce is a little slow to get protected because I think last week they picked up a flag saying that he slid late
and
didn't give it. But tonight they gave Minshew. Is that right?
Yeah.
They gave him the call.
Is he going to get the benefit of the doubt though? That's the thing that scares me. And I welcome the idea, but at the same time, you have to look at it from the other perspective. You don't want to see the guy get hurt because he was running the ball too much because of a lack of an offensive threat from everybody else. You could see both sides of the argument, but I would entertain it, obviously, because something needs to change with this offense. We're seeing too much of the same and not enough changes to validate for what we have out there right now.
We're on the clock, man. We got 2 more minutes to go through this because we need to leave
2 minutes.
the last Yes,
man.
We are men of the people. We want to talk to everybody out there. So,
all right,
and we got a lot of comments that we haven't got to. So
yes.
I got to always make sure we keep our promise of being interactive and engaging with you all. So we always try to cut our dialogue at the 30-minute mark and make sure we take all the comments that we can
man of the people
before we get out of here. So let's go ahead and get into this receiving spots. I'll let my man read the receiving.
Oh, man. This is quite the – how do I even – wow, that's something right there. Hayden Hurst is your leading receiver with 54 yards. That should tell you a lot about how things went in today's game. Adam Thielen with 5 catches, 29 yards. Stephon Sullivan, 4 catches, 28 yards. Miles Sanders, 3 for 22. Tommy Trimble, 2 for 12. DJ Chark with a whopping 9 yards on 2 catches, and he did have a touchdown. So, there's that. But you just look at those numbers and you're like, wow, this narrative that these receivers can't separate. Well, there's the proof right there. There's no separation in those numbers. 2 catches for 9 yards. Does that scare you as a defender, Chris? If you're, your star corner.
So our tight ends were the star of the show tonight.
They were, and that should not be the case.
Tight ends and running backs, really.
That should not be your case if you got receivers out there who are only putting up 20 yards. Your dedicated, genuine leading receiver only had 30 yards, 30 yards receiving.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary, and we're halfway through the season almost, and yet we are still dealing with this lack of explosiveness, lack of talent, whatever you want to phrase it. The problem is still there.
How can we, briefly, how can we fix this?
You can't.
How could anything be better for the rest of the season?
You can't. And that's why with this trade deadline.
Let it out.
With this trade deadline, Carolina had no leverage because you wanted them to make a move, right?
Yeah.
But you couldn't really make a move because what you got is what you got. And what we have doesn't get the job done, and so you can't make any moves when, there's no other option or there isn't teams that would be willing to take the blunder when you have all that mess out there to begin with.
You don't think the coaches could do anything creatively to get
They probably could.
But it's going to be minimal?
But I don't think it's going to make any difference. We're 7 games into the year. Technically, 10 games, including the preseason? And this was a problem at the beginning of training camp, and you made that apparent, and everybody lit you up for it.
They did.
In Spartanburg.
They weren't liking me.
And yet, here we go. I don't want to say I told you so or Chris told you so, but you got what you got, and it ain't a lot.
My earpiece is falling out. Let's go ahead and go over this defense. Frankie Louvu still had a pretty good game, 11 tackles. Alex Cook with a tackle for a loss.
Okay.
And you see Derek Brown, 4 tackles. Brian Burns, 4 tackles. Two solos, 1 tackle for a loss. And I'll let you read the rest there. So I want to go ahead and get into these comments.
Let's do it.
We've had everybody waiting long enough. Man, I hold the mic, I think, closer to my mouth than you do. And I kind of peek the mic out sometimes. So
usually it's the other way around.
Why don't you come up a little bit? So there we go. He loves it when I get all technical with the production part of this. Let's go ahead and get through some comments here.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's see. My man, Nah. I love this name, Nah. Chris, I've usually agreed with your assessment on the head coach, but he on the verge of having the worst Panthers record. After week 18, him and Fit need to be gone. Year 1 firings work. Texas and Cleveland did it. So my assessment of the head coach, I don't know if I've given too much of an assessment, but I have spoken to the fact that he will get his first year. And that, I don't think that it would happen until the second year. And I furthermore said that as long as he wins a game or two, it's going to look ugly. It's going to be bad. But I feel like that will still be enough. I mean, technically, he's won 1 game in the first half of the season. If he wins 2 games in the second half of the season, he won twice as many games.
Right.
And he's improved. I know a lot of people that are big fans are like, I hate that, but it's progress, right? So if you fire him, he's a CEO of the team. He directs a lot of stuff. Then you completely go to this new, what's your coaching style going to be? What's your offensive style, going to be? What's your defensive style? Who are your coordinators? You just scrap it and you start all over again, and you still don't know what's going to happen when you start all over again. Certainly you hope that you're going to get it right. I'm sure with Matt Rule, he didn't think this is probably not going to work, right? And he let it ride for about 3 years. I'm sure with Frank Reich and all the money that he put into the coaching staff, he thinks that it's going to work.
At some point, it's going to have to, right?
I know there was a story out there about how much money the Raiders lost with their fines. I think it was like $72 million.
It's up there.
It was a lot.
It's up there.
I haven't done the research, so please feel free to fact check me in the comments. But I feel like whatever he spent on this coaching staff here should be one of the higher amounts that anybody spent because he had such an all-star amount. You want him to just throw away that money? I'm sure you're saying, I don't care, do it. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
And he mentions Cleveland, right? Oh, Cleveland did it. Houston did it. First of all, I don't want to be mentioned in the same sentence with anything that Cleveland is doing right now, okay? That's all I'm going to say on that. But, not a good start. We'll see how things change, if they change or not. But it's not looking good so far.
Hey, and I love conversation. And as long as it's not disrespectful, I'll read them all and we'll have a lot of fun with it, right? So, we appreciate your comment. We appreciate you taking the time in your evening to come on and join us. I'm not joking. Matt Rule is greater than Frank Reich.
Oh, boy.
Here's where I'm going to say I can see where he's coming from.
I got to hear this. If you
just look at the record. If you go off the record, I'm sure Matt Rule won more than one. Now, when he got fired, he was kind of on this streak that we're on now.
Right.
But when he first came in, I don't know. I'm not that good on the memory. I shouldn't say that good. I'm not that.
There was one season, I believe it was his second year.
What did Matt Rule start out?
His second year, he started 3-0.
What about his first year?
I can't remember the first year because that was COVID, and I don't want to remember anything
I really
from that
feel like
year.
what he's saying is that first year, Matt Rule was on a better pace at this point.
Well, he finished the year 5-12. I do remember that.
Okay, so if he finished 5-12, and if we just split it down the middle, let's say he won 2 games in the first half, 3 in the second half, then I get where he's saying that Matt Rule was better, just if you look at the record.
He's definitely more entertaining. I'll say that. I could jive with that argument. He's more entertaining than Frank Reich in terms of personality, but that's all I'll say on that.
You could say more. Hey, we're for the fans. Thomas Frisbee, so disappointing. This team is on the same level of awfulness like the 2001 team, 2010 team. There's no solid depth on either side, and the offensive line needs some serious work. So I will say this. I got on the binoculars, and I said, I'm going to focus on the offensive line and see what's going on here. And, man, that pocket moves so fast, like collapsed in so fast, especially on the edges, that it was like, okay, yeah, Bryce is under some pretty good duress. Even if he gets rid of the ball quickly, he still got people pretty darn close to him. And I even remember a few times on the left side that they were able to get through pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But Bryce was already kind of moving out the way and was able to get a throw off, and it wasn't detrimental. But Bryce in this offense, Bryce and the offensive line that's protecting him, they're not doing a good job at all. And it's certainly, when we go and talk about C.J. Stroud versus Bryce, it's certainly something that you want to consider when you go about the evaluation of, like, why he was able to throw for almost 500 yards and 5 TDs, and why Bryce was only getting 1 and kind of running for his life.
Yeah, and I mean, a quarterback's best friend, really 2 things, is a run game and some people who know how to block. And I guarantee you C.J. Stroud had plenty of time to throw the football today if he was able to light it up for nearly 500 yards in the game that he played today.
Yeah, hey, and I want one more caller. I know I can get one more caller come to dial into the show. Let us know your comments, vent, whatever it may be. I'm gonna cross my fingers for that. Meanwhile, we got 17 likes. We appreciate that coming. And here's a good time where I'm gonna plug the fact that we're gonna continue our giveaways, doing those, and we're also going to continue giving away a jersey. So
okay,
jersey's already been ordered, has not been received yet. Last month, we gave away a black Bryce Young jersey. This month we're giving away,
is it a blue one?
We're giving away a blue.
All right.
And I thought about this today.
Process blue.
Blue. You know what we're going to give away next month?
What?
We'll go for the white one.
Okay.
We'll give away the blue, the black, and the white Bryce Young jerseys for those who tune into the channel and check us out, because we know it's a tough season. But we want you all to continue to stick with us and tune in after a win or a loss to see what we got to say. Mikey Duke. And then I read his comment, and it kind of just flows. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but he's.
I mean, to get to your comment,
yeah,
man.
we'll keep going before we just laugh too much on this one.
Amen
Thomas
to that.
Richard says, "Nah, I think you're right. It's downright embarrassing." And it's kind of confusing that he says "nah" because he's referring to the person named Nah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. It's downright embarrassing. Tepper is awful, and he shouldn't have any say about anything during the offseason. And perhaps,
hey, you up there, Mr. Tepper? Do you hear what he's saying?
Hey, and perhaps that could be the next step, right?
Right.
David Tepper has admitted to learning on the job and thinking that one way may work, and he changed his process for this second hiring of Frank Reich. I don't even really want to get too much into if Frank Reich doesn't work out, because I'll be honest, this is a business for myself and Andre.
Mm-hmm.
We need you guys tuning in. We want you guys tuning in, and if we stink it up and we're replacing Frank, probably means not too many of you guys are watching. So
right.
We're actually, even outside of that, I would be cheering for this to work, because I just don't want to wait for that. Who wants to keep waiting for success and
right.
fun? You want to win now.
And the musical chairs that we're continuing to play, not only at the quarterback spot, but the head coach spot. We just want consistency. And, right now, it's not happening. And we don't want to see it go down that road again.
We're consistently losing.
We're consistently inconsistent, right? But, we need to see some success, because it's been a minute. It has been a minute for all of you out there who know so well as well.
Ali Broderick, one of our loyal.
Our regular.
Yeah, he's a regular. Welcome back, fellas. It looked like today was the Colts get-right game without all the turnovers, I believe we could have won this game. I'll let you take on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what separated this game. The 2 pick sixes that Bryce threw, 14 points. That's how much we lost by, 14 points. So, again, and this is why I keep saying this, and this is why I feel like while everything seems bad with this team, is it really that bad? As much as it hurts me to say it, because it's not anything that Carolina isn't doing. It's what they're doing to themselves that's causing them to lose these games. There wasn't anything special that Indianapolis did today. Gardner Minshew threw how many yards today? 130 yards?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Carolina's defense didn't do its part today. I think they did a pretty good job containing Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, and their receiving game. I mean, Michael Pittman had 6 yards receiving. So it's not like they didn't do their job, and it wasn't anything that they did that caused us to lose. It was ourselves that caused us to lose. And that continues to be the theme in a lot of these games that we've been losing so far.
I'm thinking it gets complicated. I'll save the length of your talk for tomorrow. My toes are starting to get frozen, so I'm going to be ordering me some socks to keep my feet warm.
And hey, we're not even in wintertime yet, so if he's already complaining about the cold temperatures here tonight, get ready, folks, because, man almighty.
I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to go ahead and get suited up. So when you guys are like, Chris, it's only like 60 degrees. I got on my gloves, and my hat.
Look at all this gear that we're going to have to get ready. I have to take off my gloves, yada.
Hey. We might have to put a job opening out there for the wintertime production, because I'm going to be. Anyway, let me stay on task. Panther Pickle.
Players only meeting.
I just want to be a Carolina Panther fan. I don't want to be a Bryce fan or a Bryce hater. I don't completely follow that, but if you do.
I think all he's saying there is just start winning some football games. I don't care if Bryce Young plays good or plays bad. Can the team collectively as a whole, and I think this is where he's kind of hitting at here, can we all collectively as a whole just put one together? All 3 phases?
We did last week.
Okay.
Do it again.
But not all 3 phases clicked. Offensively, there were still issues in last week's game, but they found a way to win, obviously. But we haven't had that one performance where we're like, wow, everything was going Carolina's way. They were able to put points on the board. They were able to force turnovers on the defensive side of things. A dominating performance. We haven't had that in quite a bit of time, and I think that's what he's trying to pick at here.
How possible is that, though? Like, for this team to have a good game.
Could happen Thursday.
What would you think? Let's say Bryce Young has a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Can he really have a great game with the offensive line?
It's possible.
Can he really have a great game with the wide receivers that he has to throw the ball to?
We'll find out Thursday.
Yeah,
that's a fair question, though. It is a fair question.
Because, I think about that when you say don't beat ourselves. It's kind of like, yeah, we are. But it's like each week is something different, whether it's Bryce throwing interceptions, which you just feel like he's a rookie. It's going to happen. He's not going to be flawless throwing interceptions. But I think what gets exposed so much with this team where you kind of feel like, I forget what it's called, but you put your finger here to fill a hole, and then another one comes in another spot, and it just keeps going. I feel like the reason that we have that kind of situation with the Carolina Panthers is because we're so marginally good across the board, right? It's like our players are just barely good enough.
They're mid.
If they have to play like perfect to even have a game that looks like a decent win.
Right.
And I feel like this team as it is right now, as this roster stands, cannot have a dominating game. Cannot have a game where you're like, that's without, a 35-14 kind of thing.
Right.
I think I'm talking a little bit much, so
I'm
going to keep moving.
The room for error, in other words,
yes.
is very tight for them. And that contributes to that.
Amen. Say it with your chest, man. That was good.
There you go. The margin for error. That's a key phrase right there for you.
Panther Pickle furthermore says, as a subscriber, it's time to call for jobs and use the bust word, isn't it? So who's the bust?
I think he's referring to Bryce.
Are you referring to Bryce? Let us know. I'm not afraid to read it.
He was the number 1 overall pick.
Rodney, what's good, Chris and Andre? These Bryce INTs are ridiculous. Shaking my head.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. We got to let this guy in. It's been a minute.
Man.
It's been a minute. We're going to let you in here. Hear what you have to say.
Oh, man.
He's driving. Are you driving?
No, I just got home.
You're talking softly.
I just got home from the game, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What you feeling right now?
Pissed off. Pissed off. I mean, we played like garbage.
Hey, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you, man. I love it when you call it. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, we played like garbage. I mean, Bryce, 3 interceptions, totally unacceptable. And in a way, today played like the Falcons game. Because in the Falcons game, Jesse Bates, 2 interceptions. Today, Kenny Moore, 2 interceptions. So, I mean, one would expect for him, even though he's a rookie, everyone says he's a very bright, intelligent quarterback, to not repeat the same mistake. So that is number 1. Number 2, Ike Ekwonu, once again, gave up a sack, which I know in the big picture it's not why we lost, but still. So O-line wasn't good. Defense could not get off the field and throw down passing play. I understand C.J. Anderson had concussion, but here's the deal. Whoever play, you're a professional player, you own money, and you should do your job. And number 3, I have been watching football dial Panthers fans since 1997. And guys, I've never seen until today a very bad officiating, which I can say these refs are probably Colts fan, probably playing on FanDuel, having Michael Pittman on fantasy team. Sure, I'm joking, but here's the deal. The penalty on Xavier Wood, I had a clear view on it. That was Xavier Wood hit Michael Pittman in the chest, not in the helmet. If this was college football, they would have reviewed it, and they would have stated, it's not a targeting, it's not a penalty. Then they gave a penalty for staying with Gardner Minshew late, helmet to helmet. Now, against the Vikings, when Bryce Young was sliding to the ground, no penalty. When Bryce Young took a late hit, when the referee called a false start, if I remember correctly, and the Vikings player hit him, no penalty. So they called that. Then they made up a call called clicking penalty, which I have no idea what it was.
He called it a clicking penalty.
Yeah.
Clicking penalty instead of a clipping.
Which also, if you guys notice, when they called penalties on the Panthers, they couldn't get the jersey correct number. So how do you know it's a penalty against us? I mean, if you cannot get the jersey number, because one of the last penalty, I left when Bryce threw the third interception. I mean,
you left the game early, man?
It's over. I mean, it's over. I mean, not going to win. Now, crazy thing, last night I had a dream. Basically, before I woke up, which they stated dreams like that, prediction of what to come. In the dream, I saw exactly what happened today. We are playing bad, dropping to 1-7. So, prediction by Shaked Nostradamus. So, I mean, today, in a way, guys, we played like a preseason game and also like a team who's tanking for a draft. And it's week 9. I mean, it's week 9. And it's deadline is passed.
We kind of didn't hear you because that was really loud in our ears. Probably not as loud in your ear. But both of the telling of that shit.
So I'm stating it's week 9, and something has to change. It's unacceptable what we saw today. It really is.
Hey, we really appreciate you, man. It's great. I could tell, you know, we love you coming in and we laugh, but I can feel that you're sincerely hurt tonight. And I'm going to be cheering for this team to get it together, and I appreciate you coming on as usual, all right?
Sure, thank you.
You feel like he was like, a lot of times, like people are like joking or mad, but I felt like sincere, like
anger and frustration
and
just everything in between. Not only am I trying to recover from my eardrums getting banged out, I'm trying to figure out if he's okay. Our friend Shakid, because, I mean, he seems like he went through it. We went through it here today, and we only have one team to blame for it, the Panthers.
The Panthers.
Just as simple as that.
We're going to continue to be here for you guys. So as Andre likes to say, we're your therapy, right? So if you want to call and you feel like he does, give us a call. We'll listen. We'll talk about it. It's also why we're giving away the jerseys. We get it. It's not the best thing. It's not the most fun thing. Hey, but our jobs as reporters are to tell you what's going on. So we want to tell you. And it doesn't look good right now. It's going to be tough. But hopefully we can find ways to have fun together and talking about this team and covering it. So just got a question here. And
I got to see this.
We've got a lot of questions. I'm trying to get to. Do the Panthers play on turf? So you can see right behind us. Yeah, turf. Panthers do play on turf.
And it ain't natural. It's as artificial as you are going to get.
We got about 10 more minutes here, so I'm going to throw a lot of these to you.
Okay.
If you want to throw any back because you get tired, throw it back. But
all right.
Let's try to get through as many as we can before it's out of
Let's do
time.
it.
Hey, Chris and Andre, the O-line, my goodness, that O-line makes teams without sacks become sack masters. How does this team address so many issues in an offseason to just become serviceable?
Comes down to drafting. And right now, the Panthers don't really have a lot of options with drafting in next year's draft because they don't really have a lot of high draft picks. So you have to mix it in with that and free agent acquisitions because clearly what they have right now is not getting the job done. So ultimately, you're going to have to look to the future in terms of solving some of these problems that the Panthers face with their offensive line right now.
Our general manager is going to have to become a genius. That's what's going to happen.
If he makes it to the end of the year. That's a big part of it.
Thomas Frisbee, just a comment. This team will need a lot of retooling during the offseason, O-line help, and some solid depth on defense.
This whole team needs a lot of help, but those two spots right there are probably the two biggest areas of need right there. And they're going to have to get working on it because, wow, there is some gaping holes on those two positions.
Hey, this looks like a comment on one of the pictures. He says, I love seeing two linemen looking like damn. I think that might have been one of the pictures that we showed earlier.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can
just
find that one quickly.
State of shock, state of disbelief.
Let's see if I can quickly find it.
That's what happens when you play DeForest Buckner, man. He was a menace in today's game, and that's why the Colts decided to pick him up from the 49ers because I think you had it right there on that first one.
Oh, well, for the sake of time,
I'll
just stop. I'll just continue to go back through it all. Anyway, let's continue to work through some of these comments. You can probably read that from where you're standing right there.
I could see it, man,
Go ahead.
and I could feel it. Bryce has to play better, and he sure does. There is no excuse for how he played today. Those 3 interceptions definitely set us back, and they were uncharacteristic as well. Decisions that, honestly, I haven't seen him make since week 1 of the regular season. So definitely a step back for him. Got to be better in those situations.
Willie Smith, his offensive line is bad. It looks better when they run the ball. Establish the run and work on passing. Wide receivers need to be more reliable. Granted, I did stop watching.
I mean, those are all fair points, and part of the reason why they were in passing situations throughout this whole game was because of the fact that they couldn't run the ball early on. And they dug themselves in a hole because of their inability to protect Bryce Young. So those 2 hurdles made establishing the run even more difficult in today's game because they were just dominating everything up front in today's game.
Carson Henson, we give it more time, but as of right now, we did not make the correct decision. Maybe in a year or 2, but not currently. I'm assuming he's talking about the coaching in that regards.
Or Bryce Young.
Yeah, Carson, are you talking about Coach or Bryce?
And 2 things can be
he
true.
said, man, we want to talk about Bryce. I'm still not crystal clear.
But, yeah, 2 things can be true in that regard.
He probably is because he said he needs to be benched if he plays like this again. All right.
And that was a question that they brought up in the presser, too. Let me touch on that real quick because that triggered something in my mind there. Somebody asked in that presser to Frank Reich directly whether or not that Bryce Young needs to take a step aside and sit on the bench. And Frank Reich directly said that that has never crossed his mind at any point in this season. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Take it with however you want to interpret it. But I think, for one, that's an encouraging thing to hear because you want to empower your rookie quarterback when you say stuff like that. And he's doubling down on it. Whether maybe it's the right move or not, who knows? I'm not an advocate for it because I'm always on the side of, hey, you need to have your rookie quarterback out there because how else are you going to learn? But, yeah, he did stink up the joint today. Let's just be real about it. And he did not have the kind of day that anybody could have imagined. But to say that he needs to sit on the bench, and again, we had this conversation a couple weeks back with Andy Dalton when he started.
Yeah.
I just don't see the benefit in having him sitting on the bench because, for one, his confidence, what does that do to his confidence? And again, you learn by being in action and by actually being on the field. So I just don't see that happening with Bryce Young, and I don't think they're going to make that kind of decision, especially at this point in the year.
Yeah, you took all my words, so I'll just keep it moving along.
That means shut up, Andre.
No, it does not at all, man. It does not at all.
That's coach's
That was
speak
me
for
telling
shut
myself,
up.
like, there's no need to say anything. Like, we don't have to waste your time with repeating. Nestor Vasquez says we need a better O-line and faster wide receiver.
No debate to that, 100%.
The INTs were all Bryce's fault.
100% on that one, too. Got to own up to it.
I don't understand why Fitter hasn't been fired.
Because we're not at that point in the year yet. Doesn't make sense to fire him now. What difference does it make firing him now and firing him at the end of the season?
Oh, my goodness. Sea-Dog. Is this what's happening?
Are we seeing people turn
Is this what is happening?
Wow.
But I guess, 1-6. Is it 1-6?
It is 1-6, yes.
Bryce Young isn't the answer at quarterback.
Okay. I pose this question to you. How do you think C.J. Stroud would do here? Do you think he would have the same level of success here with the weapons that we have or lack thereof? How about Will Levis? He's having a pretty solid start in Tennessee, but the situation there is better. Anthony Richardson here with this very Colts team that we played today. Again, you got to look at the situation. You got to look at the context of it all. Do you think those quarterbacks would have the same level of success here in Carolina if they were here right now?
You're doing a good job tonight. You're on a roll. I have nothing to say but what he said.
Warrior Casseday's in the building tonight. I will defend Bryce Young for as long as it may be. But again, what do you expect him to do? Obviously, today was not a good game for him, but to simply go ahead and, we got to put a label bust on him after 7 games. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not how things work in the NFL. Things take time. Trevor Lawrence, it took time for Trevor Lawrence. Peyton Manning, it took time for him. C.J. Stroud, obviously it's happened sooner. The success has happened sooner than expected, but that don't mean anything.
But he could have a sophomore slump.
He could have a sophomore slump.
It's very common in the NFL for a rookie quarterback to do okay that first year because why? Well, the big thing is there's no tape.
There's no tape.
They're trying to figure him out. Like, what are their tendencies? There's no tape. And then the second year, they kind of come back down to earth a little bit because there's tape on it. They figure some things out, and now it's a little bit tougher for that quarterback. Exactly. Cam Newton had a better first year than he did the second year, and he came out the gates just flying with those 400-yard games, right?
To start out.
300.
To start out in Arizona and here against Green Bay, 400-yard performances. Again, it's about sustained success. You're not going to see sustained success in 7 games. That's just too short of a time period. Okay?
All right, we're going to stick to our 1 hour. So I'm going to try to zoom through as many as I can before we hit that 1 hour mark. I got to show this comment, though, because of the last name.
Okay.
Cadero Jenkins. What up, cuz? He says fire everybody.
Your long-lost cousin right there.
Yeah, he says fire everybody.
I mean, hey, let's just say screw it. Everybody, get out of here. We're starting anew.
I like this one. Carson Henson, I didn't watch the game, and I'm pissed.
Hey, it saved you 80% of the anger. But, again, when you look at the box score, you have no reason but to be pissed.
Willie Smith saying $85 million for 2 coaches. I'm not sure. I know earlier I touched on the Las Vegas Raiders.
I think that's what it was. That was the number.
$85
million.
Okay.
To get rid of Josh McDaniels, who should have never been a head coach in the first place for them.
But Carson Henson said we need to give him an O-line and see how he looks with that.
That's what we said about Cam Newton, too, during his entire career. No quarterback succeeds when they have less than 2 seconds to throw the ball. No quarterback. Bryce Young included.
Looks like a lot of this is a few people been upset. Brian Cohen, we have lost 3 games to self-inflicted wounds. You know those 3 he's talking about?
Today.
Yeah, today's one.
I would say Atlanta's another one because they lost 24-10.
Okay.
Bryce Young had 2 interceptions and then a fumble from Miles Sanders. And I would have to say the Minnesota game, maybe the other game that I would think off the top of my head. But again, these losses are mounting, and it's not because of what the other team is doing in some of these losses. A lot of it is just because we're not being disciplined, and we're not giving ourselves the best chance to win with all these penalties and these holes that we're digging.
And I got to get this one on here because I haven't seen this name before. Lisa Lewis. Have you seen that name before?
I have not.
Lisa,
so
welcome
to the family, Lisa. Good to have you on.
Bryce Young does not trust his O-line.
And do you blame him?
Bryce is not a bust.
Facts. She gets it. She knows what it's all about.
She furthermore goes on to say it's his rookie year. Everyone seems to forget that. If he were doing the same thing next season, then call him a bust.
I have nothing to say. She took all my fire, and I agree with you 100%. You are preaching to the choir here tonight, Lisa Lewis. You're a smart cookie. You get it. Some of these other folks that are on here right now, and not just on here, but just throughout Panthers Twitter and throughout the Carolinas, part of it is because the lack of success that we have not had here, and there's some desperation. So I get it from that perspective. But at the same time, you're not going to get success right away. It takes time. As much as nobody wants to hear it right now because we've been in this thump for the past 6 years. Ever. We're 5 years away from being 10 years away.
You know what's so hard? It's like they gave us so much glory in that 2015 season.
They did. They sure did.
And it's like and then it's like they pulled the rug from under us hard ever since then. Right? Like you just would have expected or liked to have seen just a little bit more of some kind of success.
Right.
Since that 2015, like at least like 2 winning seasons or 2 10-win seasons, losing the playoffs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we've just been pew.
I mean, we did make it in 17.
Yeah.
But that was
nobody
it.
Cares about that.
That
anymore.
was it.
All right, I'm going to read through 3 more, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
No comments, just trying to share some love with those who have taken the time to join us tonight because we really appreciate it. Hope that you continue to join us. As we go through the rest of the season, Mike Wynn loves Bryce, but this game was really bad, and I put it all on his shoulders. I can't say that name. Cartafan 282, Bryce Young bounced back game on Thursday. There's some optimism
hope
right there. And then let's go to my man Walt G.
Okay.
Bryce needs to have fun. He's too idle and flustered. Dre with the nothing about Bryce is electric or amazing. He doesn't have a great arm and is not a good athlete. Bryce is looking really bad. Let me play on that for a second.
That's a lot of hyperbole there.
He says he's not electric or amazing. Have you seen anything electric from Bryce? Or amazing?
Not yet.
You know, I don't
Not
know,
yet.
and I don't know if some of this starts to creep into our minds because he's such a low-key, soft-spoken kind of guy that you kind of start. But when I read that comment, I'm like, you know what? There haven't been any like ooh moments with Bryce. Yeah,
right?
like there haven't been even. Yeah, so I hear you, Dre. He doesn't have a great arm, and it's not a good athlete. So his arm for the deep passes, and I'm not going to put it into question. I'm like. He had a deep pass today to Thielen. I'm sorry, not Thielen, to Hurst.
Hayden Hurst.
But it's complicated a little bit, right? It's complicated because of his demeanor. It's complicated because of his receivers and the separation that they don't get. And it just makes for some stuff. So I'm going to cut off there because I said we're going to go to the hour mark. We're 3 minutes over. I got to get home to the wife and some babies. So I'm going to say a piece, then I'll let you wrap up, say a piece as well. Really appreciate everybody that tunes into our channel. It's a tough season, and it's going to continue to be tough, unfortunately. But I hope that you find myself and Andre entertaining. More importantly, I hope you find us informative. I got the name Man of the People because I love working for you guys and bringing you interesting dynamics. I mean, it's a little bit challenging right now with this record, But I will continue to talk to the players, talk to the coaches, try to make this as entertaining as it can, because I know some of us love this team no matter what.
Right.
We're going to tune in, and we just want it to be something that's like, how can we get through it? So I hope to be that channel for you to do so. We'll continue to have people on the show. And I'll be in Chicago this Thursday. It's a quick turnaround, almost like it's tomorrow that I got to get ready to go there. But I'll be there, and we'll continue to work for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to let Dre continue to talk and wrap us out.
Okay. But
whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think
They're waiting. I'm being silly.
Yeah, they are waiting. They're waiting for a lot of things right now, everything with this team right now. But regardless of the fact, I do feel we did get another dose of reality today. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to put into words how we all feel right now because, again, it's kind of just the same thing that we've seen up to this point in the year. We had so much hope coming off of last week's performance that maybe we could start to string things together, and it just hasn't materialized. So we'll see how things go coming in on Thursday. You're going to get a whole bunch of us this week. We're going to be on tomorrow for our day after show. You'll see us again on Thursday, and then on Friday we'll have another edition of our day after show Friday evening. So you're going to see a whole bunch of us here this week. We're going to try and get through it. We're going to, go through some of these hurdles together. That's why we're here. Charlotte Vibe. This is a family environment, and this is why we call ourselves a family, because in moments like this, we find a way to stick together, and that's what we're going to do moving forward, starting tomorrow and into Thursday's game in Chicago. But we'll be here for you, and that's why we go live every time for the purpose of connecting with all of you here today and later in the week as well. But with that being said, with everybody showing the love on social media today, I appreciate it. It was fun covering things on Twitter. Loving the interaction with all of you. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get it wrapped up here. I'm Andre Casseday, man of the people, Chris Jenkins. For Charlotte Vibe, thanks for tuning in to our post-game show, and we'll see all of you very soon. Have a good night, everybody.